Welcome to Sleep Medications. Before we jump into this lecture, please fix your sleep, your routine, and everything that we've discussed in previous lectures in order to maximize your sleep quality and quantity. But of course, if you are still struggling after implementing those methods and you genuinely do need a little bit of help, then you can take a look at sleep medications. But I don't want you to be reliant on that. And like I said, I've had sleep apnea, I've had night terrors, I've really struggled to get to sleep. And ultimately it came down to what I was doing with my routine, environment, my diet, and transitional states for my body to go through in order to get a good night's sleep. But of course, if you do have genetic limitations and you do feel as though you would benefit from sleep medication, well, please do consider it. Let's jump in. So we're going to take a look at some harmful sleep substances, and the top of that category, it's obvious, right? It's stimulants, it's depressants. So if you are someone that's reliant, and that's such a key word there, reliant on caffeine, we want to limit caffeine intake 6 to 9 hours prior to sleep. In my opinion, the half-life of caffeine is around 6 to 8 hours. So if you're consuming caffeine at 2 o'clock, we've already gone through that example, but the half-life of caffeine, 6 to 8 hours. By 8 p.m. that evening, you're probably going to have 100 milligrams of caffeine dancing around in your blood if you had 200 milligrams at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So of course, we can look at the quantity there, so the amount of caffeine that you are drinking, but also the time in which you're drinking it. That does not mean that you have a cup of coffee in the morning at 10 o'clock, an energy drink at 12 o'clock, and then your pre-workout at 2 o'clock, because it stacks up. We still have a lot of caffeine in the bloodstream, right? Using that half-life example of 6 to 8 hours and using the quantity, be sensible. Alcohol. Limit alcohol consumption at least 4 hours prior to sleep to avoid fragmented rest. I'm going to be very blunt with you. Alcohol is a poison. We have an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, which breaks down alcohol. Yes, alcohol is a carbohydrate, but that's why we have amylase to break down carbohydrates, whereas alcohol dehydrogenase is what breaks down alcohol. There's only one of them. Whereas things like amylase for carbohydrates, lipase for lipids or fats, and then proteases for proteins, we've got hundreds of them, which is why we can digest carbs, proteins, and fats, metabolize them, process them very, very quickly. Alcohol dehydrogenase, there's only one. So of course, if they are burnt out and you're drinking copious amounts of alcohol, not only are you not going to be able to break it down, but your body then needs to send in a reserve team, which means you're not going to get a good sleep, which means you're not going to produce those significant hormones which we talked about to be able to sleep. Number 2, cannabinoids. So things like THC, that's a buzzword, or even CBD, whether it's CBD balm, CBD oil, CBD vapes. Short-term usage. The evidence does suggest that it may improve sleep onset, latency, and increase deep, slow wave sleep. But if you are becoming reliant on that and you are using it chronically over a long period of time, and you're probably wondering, well, what is long-term? I would say anything more than 4 weeks. That leads to habituation, so it becomes habitual, and a heightened risk of dependency, reducing initial benefits. So I guess, what's the saying? Very little and less often. Same with caffeine. You'd be surprised if you came off caffeine and then you had a cup of coffee or even a pre-workout, how much better you would feel, because you're not becoming reliant on that and you're using natural sources such as sunlight to regulate your circadian rhythm and improve your sleep, compared to being reliant on caffeine just to kind of power through the day. Same with THC and also CBD to be able to relax. Number 3, performance enhancement drugs. I am totally against performance enhancement drugs. I think those that take performance enhancement drugs really need to think about the long-term implications associated. Cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, angina, different types of cancers. However, if they are genuinely wanting to compete at the highest level in international sport, whether it's bodybuilding or any sort of federation that does accept PED use, then I understand it. However, if you are someone that uses PEDs, you are going to have hormonal fluctuations. If you take anabolic steroids, aromatase inhibitors, things like SERMs, they stand for selective estrogen or estrogen receptive modulators. What that does is it can actually trigger night sweats due to estrogen imbalances. You wake up, the bed is absolutely soaking. So from a temperature regulation standpoint, these substances often cause hypothalamus dysregulations. The hypothalamus is located in the brain. It impairs your body's ability to cool down for sleep. So of course, if it's in overtime, the system is overrided, well, guess what? You're going to be sweating profusely. And what's the one key thing that we need to do when we go to sleep? Reduce our core body temperature. So of course, you're going to be tossing, you're going to be turning, you're going to be staying awake. If you're someone that uses trenbolone acetate, that specifically upregulates hypocretin and orexin, which promotes wakefulness and makes falling asleep difficult. And it's also associated with sort of night sweats. So, do you want all those implications, or do you want to stay natural? I would choose the latter. Sleep pharmacology. Orexin, the antagonists. These medications actually target wakefulness signals. So they actually have minimal effect, negative impact, on deep sleep stages. So that could actually be beneficial, right? If we look at hypnotics, benzodiazepines and non-benzodiazepines, I can never pronounce them. Non-benzodiazepine, and then benzodiazepines. Not pannies. Benzodiazepines. There we are. They are classed as like the Z drugs, so they may help with sedation, but they typically impair the quality of deep sleep. And of course, deep sleep is where we are naturally recovering. So, looking at sleep medications, benzodiazepines, not diazepines. There's two different types there. So we got temazepam and diazepam. The pros is that they're awesome in the short term. Okay, they can help fix your sleep. Okay, especially if you have high stress or high anxiety, even depression as well. They help your muscles to relax. Okay, they shut off your brain very, very quickly. The cons is that you can become very dependent on them. They ruin your deep sleep, so that recovery stage you need for muscle growth. And they can actually leave you feeling a little bit foggy when you wake up, or weak during your workouts for the next day. You've got that bit of brain fog, bit of like a hazy look about you. That's what they do. Number 2, non-benzodiazepine. Said it there. Hypnotics. We got zolpidem, and then we've got, I can never pronounce this one either, isoplaclone, almost. It's funny how they actually come up with these names, isn't it? But the pros is that these are also C drugs, okay? So they're designed to help you fall asleep and stay asleep without feeling heavily drugged, okay, as traditional sedatives. The cons is that, once again, they take the bat out of your deep recovery sleep. So you might deal with dizziness or memory gaps, and they stop working well if you use them more than a few weeks. So like I said, the peak is anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks for the majority of supplements as well. So if we've got memory gaps, that's something to consider because it's also linked to brain fog as well. We also don't want dizziness. When you get up, it's almost that type of dizziness where you kind of have like those stars shooting around you. That's exactly how it feels on a regular basis if you're taking non-benzodiazepine hypnotics. Orexin receptor antagonists. So we've got suvorexant and then lemborexant. So they work by turning off wakefulness signals rather than just sedating you. So that actually helps you to sleep without ruining your deep sleep stages. And they have a lower risk of addiction and usually don't mess with your gym performance the next day. However, some people can actually feel quite drowsy even dizzy as well. I should have put that up there, but they wake up, they feel newer, but they almost feel like they're under. Like they have limited control over their actions. We don't have much long-term data with that on how they affect sort of high-level athletes specifically, but just sort of like day-to-day tasks. Most have mentioned that they feel drowsy, they feel a little bit weaker, but weakness is not it's not correlated to sort of like force production and sort of gym performance. Weakness in the sense that those typical tasks that they would have done, there's a little bit more critical thinking around it. So what they actually need to do rather than just autonomously doing it. Can't pronounce my words today. Then we got melatonin receptor agonists. So things like Ramlaton. So they help to reset your internal body clock, making them great for jet lag or shift work. But guess what? You can actually download an app for free, which we've talked about. It's called Time Shifter. So instead of medications, you could actually try that first. But yeah, Ramlaton, it's very safe. Okay, it carries zero risk of addiction or like a hooked dependency, the fact that you have to take it constantly. But they aren't always heavy hitting, all right? If you have a serious insomnia or trouble staying asleep all night, they might feel a little bit too weak to do the job. So, in short, medication is a tool. It's not the only thing which can help to improve or get you to sleep. Number 5, sedating antidepressants. So trazodone or doxepin. They're helpful if your sleep issues use constant anxiety or low mood. They can be effective by keeping you asleep throughout the night rather than just helping you drift off, but they often cause a hangover effect in the morning, okay, almost as if you've drank a load of alcohol. They also carry a risk of weight gain and metabolic changes, which can mess with your body composition goals. So I'm pretty sure it affects your hunger hormones, so things like ghrelin and also leptin, just because your energy can be a little bit skewed. So then you've got a little bit more hunger cravings as well. We also have antipsychotic sedatives. I can never pronounce this one either. Quetiapine, might be wrong, quetiapine. These are sometimes used as a heavy-duty option for severe insomnia or when anxiety is so high it's impossible to rest. They're not ideal for regular use. They are notorious for causing weight gain and make you feel extremely sluggish, which can actually tank your motivation and your strength in the gym. So these are ones I would typically avoid. Number 7, antihistamines. So once again, you're going to laugh at me trying to pronounce these words, but diphenhydramine and then doxylamine. These are very easy to find over the counter without prescription. Okay, you can literally get them online. They are effective for helping you fall asleep quickly if you just need a one-off fix. However, you'll feel groggy the next morning, which can negatively impact your training intensity because your body hasn't recovered. And also your body's going to build up a tolerance for them very, very quickly, meaning they actually stop working after a few nights. So to be honest, the risk to reward ratio isn't that good. Long-term use is actually linked to drying side effects like a dry mouth. So things like polydipsia as well, which is like excessive thirst. You've got dry mouth, constipation, and even more serious, an increased risk of dementia. So is it worth it? That's for you to decide. I like the way you kiss me. I can tell you this.